working out. When you're working out, you have to think that heartbeat's going to definitely get elevated, right? That cardiovascular system gets stressed, and you kind of want to think the same bit on the gait, not in a ridiculous way, right? You're not going to rev her way faster than she'd normally trot or normally canter, but yeah, you kind of think, is that kind of a resting or idling tempo to the trot, or is it really a working or active tempo? Yeah, right, good. Literally kind of going, girlfriend, come on. Like, you got it, trot again. Stay in the trot just for a minute, just to push that with her. Good. Be your personal trainer and just keep telling her, like, you are better than this. Yeah. Good. Round the whole arena when you're ready. Same mindset. And you kind of then, like, I always look at that with them and think, over time, and it might take over time, meaning within the ride, or it might take me a couple of days, but over time, I'm going to keep saying, within the ride and over a few days, what's my minimum? What's my idle speed? The lowest I'm willing to let your heartbeat, rhythm, or tempo of a trot come down to. Anything less than that, yeah, literally like you do to a person having a heart attack. Anything less than that is getting the electric paddles to shock that heart back to life. Good. Yes. And those electric paddles might just be you, like some horses, my little black horse, my 3-year-old, if I'm sitting on her and I go, "Grr," she will fly out from under me, right? If I do that to my chestnut horse, she'll fall asleep from underneath me. So they're all different, right? Like some of them, that little electric paddle might have to be the sharper sting of the whip. Some of them, it's just like a body posturing aggressiveness, like I am about to eat you for lunch, and they fly out from underneath you. Yes, good, nice. Others, you do have to kind of, I hate to say it, but you do have to leave a welt on their butt. That's going to keep them remembering in 5 minutes that, hey, if I don't keep going, man, that still stings. Right? That was way better that try. Even if it means right now, like you just did, and I appreciate that, you just went 2 laps, right? Kind of going, should I need a break from that? But if that's the mindset that you go with, that, like that's what I do with my chestnut horse all the time. A little bit on like this type, a little more holds in her back, a little lazy. Not lazy, like I'm going to quit working and just lie down in the arena, I'm done, you can't. I'm happy to work forever, I'm just not always wanting to put out the extra effort. Right. And what I do with her is the same. I pick her up and I go, okay, clock starts, 2 laps, or 2 minutes, or whatever my decision is. 2 laps around the arena, let's say. You need to fire at full power. High heart rate, full power, flying around like, trotting like your tail's on fire. And I'm going to do whatever it takes to keep you at that. Then I'm going to walk and praise you and go, okay, that's all I need. Then I'm going to do it again here in a minute. I might just keep changing rein back and forth. And I'm going to do the same amount of time. This time, though, if you don't hold up that energy level, I'm going to be even tougher. And then you're going to go 2 laps and I'm going to take a break. And I'm going to do it again after that. Back to the other way, maybe. And I'm going to do that over and over every day until I just pick her up and I go do those 2 laps and she trots off and she goes, it's not always about being hit with the whip, but she goes, don't hit me, don't hit me, don't hit me, don't hit me. And she just trots for those 2 laps. She never gets in trouble. She gets to walk again after those 2 laps. Or whatever it is. It could be a minute, it could be 5 circles. You kind of just pick a reasonable amount of time or distance. Then you say to her, okay, now that this is becoming easy, maybe a week from now or a couple of days from now that we're in agreement, I don't have to get after you anymore, now I need 2.5 or 3 laps like that. And I'm going to keep upping the ante very slow. Once it feels like, okay, I can hold that, 5 or 6 laps or whatever feels like would be relatively indefinite. Then I go, now let's do the same thing with one shoulder in. And you got to hold up your end of the bargain in that shoulder in. And if that's good, great, I'll leave it at that. That's going to be a day or 2 or 3. Right. If that's good, I'm going to add a shoulder in, then a haunches in, and then a half pass. And I'm just going to keep adding systematically, but I'm only going to add on top of that energized trot. Yeah, do the same thing once more to the right again. That intense, because there she was really starting to kind of, get her motor in gear. Yeah, good start right away. Stay on that. Yes, good in the balance. That's how high too you need to frame. That looks great. Really up like that. That there's no excuse to kind of dangle onto her front legs. Yes. Good. Good. And just absolutely on her case. Know your idle speed, right? So what have you decided is your minimum amount of kind of beats per minute? And any slower than that gets a big correction, right?
Right.
Okay. Good. Right, even sharper, right. Make her jump that forward, right. Good. Wrong direction, sweetheart. Don't back off. Go forward. Yeah. Yes. That's it. Good. Yeah. Now she starts to kind of, to me, like live up to the destiny of what her trot could be, right?
Right.
Otherwise, I'm like, I'm just not buying it. Same with the canter a bit. Like, you have a better quality gait than this. Yes. Right. And like I said, I don't want medium, but I want that thought. Like, she kind of wants to go. Part, I don't want the medium just because it's a lot high mileage on the legs to do if I do too much of it. That's it. But I need the power plant of her hind legs generating enough energy that it feels like I could just release a medium at any moment. Yeah. Yeah. That's the same for the flying changes later, right? If I'm having to push that canter at all, the flying changes are always going to be sticky. Way better. Good. And again, you just go, what's my set or kind of defined amount of time that she has to trot like that for 2 laps, a minute and a half, whatever it is, right? Is a minute and a half a very long amount of time?
Not really.
No, how long do you think you just went there?
Probably like a minute.
Yeah, I was going to say probably 45 seconds, probably under a minute. But it feels like a long time, right?
Right.
So that's where, like, it's not, doesn't have to be much at a time, like 2 minutes is a lot. Like if I just said trot for 2 minutes at that power level, at the end of 2 minutes, you would be absolutely panting.
Yeah.
But like that's a good condition. Like you have to kind of work up to that condition when they're a little bit wanting to back off like that. Others are easier, like you know, the hotter ones versus the lazy ones. My black horse, I could pick up the canter and canter for 15 minutes. She'd never try to break, and I'd go, where did the 15 minutes go?
Right.
On my chestnut horse, if I canter 3 20-meter circles, I'm like, man, it feels like we've been cantering for days. Like this is a lot of work. That all makes sense?
Yes.
Yeah, I think definitely, I mean, it's interesting to see her there because like when she powers up in the trot, it's a whole different horse.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? And I'd be looking at that kind of, whether it's, you know, this is not a bad time of year either, I think, when we're kind of talking about one like her, because I think if she's like that and it's springtime and you're saying, oh, I have all these shows I want to do in the next few weeks, I'm going, oh, be careful.
Right.
Whereas right now, if we're going into winter and she's kind of like that, and I'm like, come on, we got to up the ante, and there's not a horse show next week, I'm not panicked about it.
Right.
Because I feel like if I can just get that really kicked into gear, like I know the movements are there, the tricks are there, the stuff is there.
Yeah.
And then it's there at so much of a higher level, so it's really worth taking that time now to kind of go, hey, we got to come to a little better agreement on the way you carry yourself in your balance, the way energy flows through your body, like I said yesterday with the canter about it coming up through the shoulder, and then the power level required to make that happen and sustain it.
Right. Showing right now is the least of my concern. Really, I'm just focusing on making her the best.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't really think she's quite ready for the show, in my opinion. And I don't want to compete her until I think she's more than ready.
Yeah. I think that's a good attitude, and I think with a horse like her, there's an unfortunate aspect of her in that if you took her to a horse show today and she's a little behind your leg and a little sticky, she's still going to score well.
Right.
And I say that's unfortunate, but it really isn't. But it's unfortunate in the sense that it can give you a little bit of a false positive.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? Like she's still going to score well doing those tests, even if there's a mistake in the flying change, because she's a nice mover. She's a very pretty type. She presents a nice picture, and she doesn't look argumentative. She looks supple. Like she doesn't look like she's. It just kind of looks like she just isn't producing enough. Where you look at her and you're like, I want to give her an 80% instead of a 70. Instead of looking at her and going, man, she could be an 80 and she's really holding back. I'm going to give her a 60%. They don't. Nobody's going to think like that in the test because we're not challenging her buttons in the test. Whereas here, when we just push for that little extra, you kind of see how much she's holding back. Then I start to go, okay, lady, come on.
Right.
You know, like then I get angry about it. But if you're not looking at it in that term, you're not going to get angry. You're going to go, wow, what a nice, elegant look. Just a little too quiet.
And it might sound weird, but I really am, if you look at the judging scale, a 7 is a fairly good, an 8 is a good, and a 9 is a very good. In my opinion, I don't want to compete unless I'm confident that a judge can look at that and say she did a good job writing that.
Good? Yeah. Be a little mean to her. I mean, don't think of it as mean, but be a little mean to her next couple of months with that.